What if I told you that $100,000 sitting in your account right now could turn into $1 million? Not through some shady crypto scheme, not through gambling, and not through luck. Through the most boring, most predictable, most proven wealth-building machine in history. And the only question that really matters is, how fast? Let's get into it. Most people hear $100,000 to $1 million and immediately think it's impossible, that it takes some kind of genius-level stock picking, or a trust fund, or 50 years of waiting. But here's the truth. The math to go from $100,000 to $1 million is simpler than you think. And once you understand it, you'll never look at your money the same way again. Let's start with the baseline. If you took $100,000 today and invested it in a broad stock market index fund like the S&P 500 with a historical average return of about 10% per year, including reinvested dividends, your money would hit $1 million in roughly 24 years. But let's be honest, most of you watching this don't want to wait 24 years. So let's talk about what speeds this up. There's a simple trick investors use called the Rule of 72. You take the number 72 and divide it by your annual rate of return. That tells you how many years it takes for your money to double. At 10%, your money doubles every 7.2 years. At 8%, it doubles every 9 years. At 12%, every 6 years. This is important because going from $100,000 to $1 million isn't one doubling. It's between 3 and 4 doublings. Each doubling gets you closer exponentially faster. That's the magic of compounding. The bigger your balance, the harder your money works. Now, here's where most people completely miss the boat. They think compound growth is just about the rate of return. It's not. The real accelerator is additional contributions. Let me show you the difference. Scenario 1. You invest $100,000 and never add another dime. At 10% average annual returns, you hit $1 million in about 24 years. Fine. But in Scenario 2, you invest $100,000 and add just $500 a month on top of that. Same 10% return. Now you hit $1 million in roughly 16 years. You just shaved 8 years off the timeline by adding $500 a month. For many people, that's a car payment, a few subscriptions, or eating out less. And in Scenario 3, you add $1,000 per month. Same starting point, same 10% return. You cross the $1 million mark in about 13 years. That's almost half the time compared to doing nothing extra. This is why the conversation isn't just about how much you start with. It's about what you keep adding to the pile. Now, let's talk about something most finance channels won't tell you. The rate of return you earn matters, but not as much as you think for the first 10 years. In the early years, your contributions matter way more than your returns. If you have $100,000 and the market gives you 10%, that's $10,000 in gains. But if you contribute $12,000 that same year, your contributions actually outpaced your investment returns. This flips over time. Eventually, your portfolio generates more in returns than you could ever contribute manually. But in those critical early years, your savings rate is your superpower. And here's another thing that separates people who build wealth from people who just talk about it. They don't try to time the market. They know that missing even a handful of the best trading days can destroy their long-term returns. If you stayed fully invested in the S&P 500 over the last 20 years, you captured strong average annual gains. But if you missed just the 10 best days during that stretch, your returns got cut nearly in half. Miss the best 20 days, and your gains almost disappeared entirely. The cost of sitting on the sidelines, waiting for the perfect moment, is far greater than the cost of investing on a bad day. Consistency beats timing every single time. So what does this actually look like in practice? Let's say you're 30 years old. You've saved $100,000. You invested in a diversified portfolio, maybe a mix of S&P 500 index funds and total market funds. You set up an automatic transfer of $1,000 per month. You max out your 401k contributions, which in 2026 is $24,500 per year if you're under 50. You reinvest every dividend. You don't panic when the market drops, because it will drop. It always does. And it always recovers. By age 43, you're a millionaire. But here's the part that blows people's minds. You don't stop at $1 million. Because by the time you hit $1 million, the compounding engine is running at full speed. Going from $1 million to $2 million at 10% takes only about 7 more years. And $2 million to $4 million? Another 7 years after that. The hardest part of this entire journey is the first $100,000 to $200,000. After that, every doubling feels faster because it is faster. Time plus consistency equals wealth. That's not a motivational quote. That's a math equation. Now let's address the elephant in the room. What about inflation? At 3% average inflation, $1 million in 15 years has the buying power of about $640,000 in today's dollars. That's still real wealth, but it means you should aim higher. Shoot for $1.5 million or $2 million if you want true financial freedom. And the way to do that? The same formula. Start now. Invest consistently. Increase your contributions every time you get a raise, and never touch the principal. Let me leave you with this. The difference between someone who turns $100,000 into $1 million and someone who doesn't isn't intelligence. It's not access to secret information. It's behavior. It's the person who automates their investments and forgets about them, versus the person who checks the market 12 times a day and panics at every headline. It's the person who increases their monthly contribution by $100 every year versus the person who says they'll start investing next month for 10 years straight. The math is already on your side. The S&P 500 has delivered positive returns in roughly 73% of all calendar years since 1926. Over any 20-year rolling period in history, it has never produced a negative return. The system works. The only question is whether you'll work the system. If you found this valuable, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.